Harlequin Presents and HarlequinAudio present Carrying a Sicilian Secret by Caitlin Cruz. Performed by Mailing Turner. Chapter 1. Dioni Adrianakis did not like a single thing about New York City, though she would die before she admitted such cultural heresy to anyone. It was crowded. It was almost entirely concrete, and astonishingly dirty and smelly, as was only to be expected, given the first 2 points. Most especially, it was not a temperate and beautiful Greek island like the home of her childhood and her last few years. Nor was it the lovely finishing school she had gone to, high in the Alps, where serene views beckoned in all directions, and one did not have to be debutante material to enjoy it. But people were meant to love New York City. Love was one of the city's defining characteristics, and Dioni had decided she would adore it, based on its legend alone. Sight unseen, she had informed her brother that she wished to move here. He had consented, and off she'd gone. Hoist with her own petard, really, she thought now, as she rounded the corner onto her street in the West Village. Or, more accurately, as she turned onto the street where one of her older brother's properties waited. It was a lovely brownstone on a pretty street, as these things went. She had no complaints about it whatsoever. Everything in it was perfect and well maintained. It even had its own garden, which she knew was a near unheard-of luxury here. Sometimes she would sit out in it and pretend she couldn't hear the city all around her. But when she opened her eyes, there were tall buildings in place of the sky, no stars in evidence, and she was still alone. She started down the street, reminding herself that it was better not to worry too much over her labouring steps, because she wouldn't be pregnant forever. A happy little thing, she'd been telling herself, that seemed less and less amusing the more pregnant she became. She had a good 3 months to go yet, and she'd felt for a while as if she was trying to navigate the world and this packed tight city in someone else's body. What she did like about New York City was the ease with which she could indulge the mad cravings that had taken her over the past months. The trouble was that she had to go and fetch them herself, something she would have loved if she had her old body. But she didn't. And Dioni had told her older brother that she required fierce independence in this stage of her life, and therefore didn't want the staff he'd offered here, which she knew he would have been only too happy to provide. The trouble was, any staff members here would be loyal to her brother, which meant they would report back to him. She might not know what she planned to do, but she did know that there was no point bringing her brother in on the reality of her life until she had at least some part of it planned out. It wasn't Apostolus's fault that he was lovingly overbearing. It was simply who he was. Her hero, always, but he did have a tendency to take charge, so there was nothing to do but trail along in his wake. That had been fine when she was a girl, but Dioni was keenly aware that this situation was hers to solve, if there was any solving to be done. And besides, how could she tell her beloved older brother exactly how and when and with whom she had gotten herself pregnant? She still couldn't figure that out. Today she'd run out, she'd waddled, to get the particular cakes she fancied that were made at a bakery just around the corner. She could admit that it was that sort of thing that really did make New York special. Have a whim, cater to it within moments. She wasn't sure that made up for the total lack of natural beauty that she was used to, but it was something. And there was something else, she thought as she walked on, her eyes on the figure who looked to be standing there at the foot of the stairs to her brownstone. There were so many people in New York City at any given time that it was impossible not to walk down the street without thinking she saw every single ghost of every single person she'd ever met. Though the truth was, Dioni saw this ghost all the time, so she didn't have to wait for random strangers on a leafy street in the West Village to bring him to mind. Her curse was that Alceu Vaccaro was the shadow cast over every breath she took.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?